What started out as a manga series featured in a weekly Shonen Jump back in 1999 about a boy, his friends, and a card game with origins in ancient Egypt has become a massive media franchise featuring various games, movies, and anime adaptations. But it is what is at the heart of Yu-Gi-Oh! That made it into the media giant it is today, the cards. I was hooked on the anime at an early age, and one of my first video game consoles that was just mine was a Game Boy Advance SP. One of my very first games on that console was actually a Game Boy Color game, Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Duel Stories. Every time the opportunity arose, I would walk out of the store with multiple Yu-Gi-Oh! Booster packs as a kid, and one of my favorite Christmas memories was opening up my duel disc and pretending I was dueling Kaiba in my room. This of course was with my own crafted deck that admittedly probably didn't make any sense. So how did such a deep passion and interest in a hobby die? And what has got me back into duel monsters after so long? All that and more on this episode of Dillit Dives.
Welcome back, come on, come in. Sit back, relax, playing games with friends. Don't for the
Welcome back to Flip Shoop, everyone. My name is Dillon, and today we are doing yet another episode of my Dillit Dive series. This is the series where I cover a gaming topic that interests me in a longer format and give opinions, personal stories, and insight, and my overall thoughts about the game in question. Today we're going to be covering Yu-Gi-Oh!, but more specifically my Yu-Gi-Oh! Story and how I have ultimately returned to a hobby that I spent so much time and my parents' money on as a kid. So get comfy, use this as relaxation as you drift off into the Shadow Realm, grab a snack, and let's dive in. Also make sure you hydrate, you dusty little rats. My Yu-Gi-Oh! Collection started when I was in kindergarten. I went to a school that went from pre-K all the way to 8th grade, so the after-school daycare sort of program I was in had all sorts of age groups within it. I was trying to hang out with some older kids who were dueling, and this one kid who had a habit of bullying other kids handed me a card at the end of his duel and said, "Here, this will get you started. It's a super rare card." And what was this ultra rare, coveted, mouth-watering card he handed me? Petite Moth. It was Petite Moth. But because it was, quote, rare and ultra cool kid stuff, I treated it like it was. I treated it like it was a family heirloom. I went home and I showed my mom with so much pride, and she was probably just like, yeah, okay, cool. But after that, I was always opening booster packs, so she must have got the message. I had tons of cards, and it all started with a prank. So if you're out there, whatever your name was, I hope you're doing okay, and thanks for getting me into Yu-Gi-Oh!, asshole. The thing that was different about Yu-Gi-Oh! Was that the anime taught you the basic rules of the card game.
And my faith rewards me with Gaia, the fierce knight, with a destructive power of 2300!
Sometimes. So most of us could go out, buy a structure deck, bring it to school, and pretend like we knew what we were doing. This love for Yu-Gi-Oh! Would be a source for many strong memories that I have of my childhood. One of my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Memories was my parents taking my sister and I to a flea market. I found Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, and the structure deck I had begged my mom to get me had all 3 of the Egyptian god cards within it. I was so excited when I opened the box and saw them, but their names were weird and not what I remembered from the anime. Silver the Sky Dragon, the Golden Bird Ra, Randy the Tormentor. What are these cards? Had I discovered a never before seen boost? They were fake. They were fake cards. But it mattered not. I would use these cards in neighborhood duels with other kids and beat them into submission, even though it was kind of weird that they always ended up at the top of my deck, and I would always play them with no tributes. Kind of weird. Oh well. Another memory I am very fond of was pulling my favorite card, Buster Blader, from a pack and being ecstatic to own a card that I had loved from the anime. Seeing the cards from the anime enter my collection over time was such an awesome feeling as a kid, and I used to get really into organizing them by type, star rating, alphabetical order. Yeah, I was a crackhead for Yu-Gi-Oh! Back then. You can actually ask Nadia. I am not an organized person unless I'm interested in something. It's ridiculous. Like, when I'm into something, I get really into it. I'm talking spreadsheets, labels, post-it notes, alphabetizing. My pattern of collecting would continue, and I would amass quite the Yu-Gi-Oh! Collection over time. I'd gotten a few of the games as well, my favorite 2 being Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship 2008, which I played even after I didn't collect anymore, and Duelist of the Roses. This game was hella weird, but in a good way. It was a weird Yu-Gi-Oh! Retelling of the English War of Roses, where Yugi is Henry Tudor, and you have to collect rose cards. The format was really weird. It was like this chess sort of game, but man, this fever dream was really dope. If you are interested in a further Dillit dive on just that game, let me know. Seriously, I would love to go back and play that game and give it a go and, just tackle it with my new highly cognitive adult brain. I still laugh at poop jokes. So yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a hobby I was deeply passionate about, even though I only knew the basics. I had tons of cards and I loved filling up binders upon binders of them. So what happened? Well, one day when I was 15 or 16, long after I'd hung up my dual disc and retired my favorite Buster Blader back into his binder sleeve, my grandma and my dad wanted to help me clean up my room. This process took a few days because, as a depressed teenager with undiagnosed ADHD, I lived in a kingdom of clutter and filth. So my brave dad and grandma went to work, throwing all sorts of trash and grime away. But they also donated lost treasures.
Say goodbye to Exodius!
After this, my love for the card game seriously died. Pokemon continued to grow with me into my adulthood because of Pokemon Showdown and the game franchise, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Became a thing of the past for me. Sure, my dad and grandma had a point. I wasn't really into them anymore, and they were pushed to the back of my closet, only being dusted off when I wanted to go through memories. But I don't know, it just kind of sucked that they were all gone, so I kind of gave up on the game. I went through the rest of high school and into early adulthood with little to any thoughts about Yu-Gi-Oh! My next brush-in with Yu-Gi-Oh! Would come when Duelings came out. My co-host, cousin, and best friend Dillon told me about a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game that you could play on your phone, and so I gave it a try. I chose Yugi's deck and hopped onto an online match. There was no way that the fabled Dark Magician could possibly lose. What the fuck is that? Summoning 500 monsters in one turn looking at... What is that? Starburst Dragon? Yeah, okay, I'm not with... Nope, fuck that. Nope, never again, not with this. Not playing this. Nope, not with it. It had been too long and it just wasn't for me. These kids and their new high-speed summons, I'll tell you what, back in my day, you played one monster and you put a card face down. I remember when them elemental heroes came in and that Yu-Gi-Oh! Declassified School Survival Guide came out, and those puppies were hot. But I just can't get into these nasty white background synchro cards.
Shut up, Grandpa.
And so back to Yu-Gi-Oh!-less life it was. Years went by and a few friends and I eventually tried Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist on PS4. This was actually really fun and we built old school decks to duel each other with. It lasted us a few months and this was the closest I got to getting back into Yu-Gi-Oh! But like all good things, this phase eventually came to an end and I still haven't learned anything about these new synchro cards at this point. Wait, what? There's more new cards now. Xyz. Link Summit. What the fuck is that? At this point I just chalked it up to Yu-Gi-Oh! Wasn't for me anymore. There were just too many new things, and my boomer Yu-Gi-Oh! Brain couldn't handle it. I stopped watching the anime around the time that GX had been out for a little while, and I just could not get into these new monsters and effects. And then, January 22nd of 2022 rolled around. We had just finished a few League of Legends games, and everyone was relaxing and preparing for the next game. Jalen checked Steam and told us that there was a new Yu-Gi-Oh! Game that had been released a few days ago. We looked at it, downloaded it, and signed in. I did the tutorial and then started building a deck. I probably wouldn't stick with this game, and I just wanted to see how it would go, but hey, it was free, so let's give it a shot. So what deck to build? I learned from Duel Links that my old boomer cards were not viable in this current game, and then I saw them. Adorable anime girls. I bought a secret pack, and then another, and then like 75 more. I put together a deck based on how much I liked the art style, and what was that deck? Sky Strikers. I told myself I would at least learn how these Link monsters work so I could play the game. So I went on ranked with my newly created Sky Striker deck, and after watching a few deck profiles and tutorials on YouTube, I was ready to give it a shot. Look, I would probably lose, but at least I would give it a try, and then I'd probably uninstall the game and never play again. And I won. Again, and again, and again. And yeah, there were some losses too, but it never felt bad. Like, I felt like even the losses I was learning from. I started to see how this game had transformed, and sure, it was scary at first and kind of annoying, but I started to learn. The scariest part was the new cards, but by playing and watching YouTube videos, I was actively learning the game. The annoying part was how long these turns took. Jeez, man, do you really need an hour just to summon a Oh, yeah, you know, I can see why you would need an hour. Never mind, Sire, as you were. I've seen a lot of people who left the series when I did on Reddit complain about the pacing of the new format and how there's too much meta decking and all these other things. But as a Yu-Gi boomer who gave this new format a go, it's really interesting, and sure, it's difficult sometimes, but I think that's part of the fun. Learning what decks do and the way that cards interact now makes me excited to keep learning. Master Duel really got me back into the swing of things, and I'm still playing the game pretty frequently. I've really rediscovered my love for Yu-Gi-Oh! And while I do miss the more simplistic days sometimes, I really am enjoying this format. This new style of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is complex and has a steeper learning curve to it, but that's kind of what makes it much more rewarding when you figure out a deck's mechanics well enough to compete. That has been one of my favorite parts of getting back into this game. I love looking at different archetypes and seeing how they just function together. Sometimes I'll look at deck profiles for decks I have no intention of building just because I like to figure out why cards work together. Master Duel really changed my outlook on Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm excited to continue playing well into the future. I even went out and bought some physical products, opened them, and bought binders to put the cards in. The cards have really sunk their teeth into my brain again, and it's all thanks to Master Duel. Sure, it has some flaws, but I'm working on another video that will address that sort of stuff, so be on the lookout. Aside from that, I am completely and hopelessly addicted to Yu-Gi-Oh! Once again, and honestly, I do think it's here to stay. Something about the mental power and strategy needed and pre-planning phases of learning what other decks do that you'll probably have to face is just really stimulating to me. That sounded weird, but we're gonna leave it in. I also wanted to take a moment to thank all of the wonderful Yu-Gi-Tubers who have made getting back into this game a lot easier than it probably would have been had the content not existed. Channels like Team APS make it easy to understand where Yu-Gi-Oh! Has come from and where it currently stands. Crush Cards is great for seeing deck profiles and explanation on builds and why cards synergize. And Team Samurai is just a card-sniffing Yu-Gi-Oh! Addict, and seeing him open packs makes me miss what that feeling was like as a kid. You guys are all amazing, and all of the content you do is interesting and worthy of praise and recognition. All of these YouTubers, plus some more, will have their links in the description below, so please go check them out if you have the time. Let them know Plupa Chup sent you. They won't know what that means. We don't matter. But thanks. And that leads us here. Young Dillit was an avid duelist coming up in the ranks of the neighborhood ladder with his totally legal and format valid Egyptian god deck. He lost himself in the shadow realm of growing up and didn't find his way out until his friends helped him rediscover his long lost love for a trading card game. So I am expecting to release some more Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, at least quite a few more videos, so be on the lookout for that. I'm also sending my dad and my grandma a request for funds because the cards that they donated I saw on TCG Player, some of them were worth a lot of money. Like, I'm sitting on a small fortune if I still have those cards, but I don't. So yeah, I think like them just like, I don't know, $50,000 should be enough, I think. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and leave me a comment telling me about your Yu-Gi-Oh! Story. I do read all of the comments and I would love to hear your guys' experiences. I've been Dillit, and this was a Dillit Dive, and thank you for hanging out with me. Until next time, peace.